Welcome back, Aztec Nation, to another episode of the Sons of Montezuma podcast. It's that time of the week after taking last week bye week off. We are joined once again with our resident coach, Coach C. Make sure you guys are hitting that like and subscribe button on YouTube. We definitely want to get these videos out there to more Aztecs fans so you can be educated a little bit, step your coaching game up a little bit more. And it's Mateo San Diego. Coach C, how are you doing, man? How was your bye week?
Yeah, no, it was bye weeks are tough after losses, that is for sure. And usually when you lose a game, you want to get to the next game as fast as possible. Kind of like in basketball, right? You're out of the park, and if your team loses, you're so upset you can't wait to get back on the court again. To get that yucky feeling out of you and all that. So we're the winning team. They get to go to the water fountain, relax a little bit because they know they're going to coast, but you're just itching. And football, same way. I mean, you love bye weeks. You need the rest. Your body needs the rest. But there's not a rest mentally because it's just you need a couple of days to recover from the mental, aspect of beating yourself up, doing a self-scouting type deal, and then getting back to that belief, all right, we need to get this thing turned around. So I'm sure it was tough for the boys, but much needed, especially what we're going to go over tonight. I think the bye week is really going to play a good thing because the type of mental mistakes that were made in this last week and all, it does need to be rehearsed. We need to make sure we're exercising what we need to exercise to get that back into where we're all unified again and doing things the right way. And sometimes you need more than one or two practices now. You need an extra week. So this is I'm sure it was quite a good week for Coach Hoke and the staff to kind of go back to the basics, kind of get back. Hey, let's start all over. Let's get back to who we are and get good at that, rather than just trying to do too much and trying to figure out what the game plan is for the week. So I'm sure it was a lot of self-scouting on their part and a chance to really kind of iron out the wrinkles that needed to be ironed out.
49-10, the Aztecs were just dominated in Colorado Springs against Air Force. And it's kind of a tough situation because obviously this first part of the season, we played some really tough opponents. And just when you start to think the team is starting to find their groove, find their way against Boise, you just run into an absolute juggernaut in Air Force. Defensively, they're number 2 in the nation, I believe, statistically. And their offense, I mean, they're recruiting a different type of athlete at their skill positions, I believe. And it definitely showed in this game. So that's 2 in a row to Air Force, back-to-back years after winning, I want to say 9 or almost 10 in a row. So, hey, that's in the past. Of course, we're going to look at some of the plays what went wrong. But we got Hawaii this Saturday on the islands where they're a different team. But, we got to correct some big mistakes. This team, like you said, they got to come together. And we're going to take a look at some of the film and, hopefully be able to see what are those mistakes and how can they get it corrected in time for Hawaii, which is, it's going to be a must-win game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Air Force is not a team that you expect to beat you through the air. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of our mental mistakes were. It's okay if a team beats you doing their best. Air Force is known to be in that ground attack. It's kind of weird that they're Air Force, yet they beat you on the ground so much. All their weaponry is there. And, their air attack is really a bunch of 2-engine type stuff, 2-engine planes, but where they come up with the tanks and all that ground power. And so you never want to get beat by something that they are considered not that great at. But yet what we saw on Saturday is that's exactly how they beat us. And unfortunately, it was more of just our mental mistakes, but the good thing about that, again, if there's any silver lining, when you see those kind of things, it's just going to really feed into the type of mistakes we made in Air Force. It's going to really lean itself for this game coming up against Hawaii that they are known for the air attack. And so you get to look at the mistakes that you made through the air versus Air Force, iron out those wrinkles, like I said before, and then you'll get a chance to see if it got applied in this next game. Was our eye discipline there? Was our route recognition there? And what we're going to go over in these clips, these quick clips in the Air Force game, is that we didn't practice good eye discipline. We didn't practice route recognition. And it's understandable in the respects that, man, they probably didn't put a lot of emphasis on it. They should have, and our kids kind of, and I'm sure they, tried, but it just didn't show, obviously, in this game. And it's really what hurt us. And it was unfortunate. So here's a play that didn't actually get completed. And to me, it's the most important part of the whole football game, was this early second period. We're up 7-0. And they're in a situation here where they're going to, they're in our territory. It's very important down. And our defense calls a play. They're going to come with a cat pressure. And what a cat pressure means is they're going to bring pressure from the DB to go ahead and bring pressure right away. And you could tell that San Diego State was kind of expecting an option play, a speed option play. Now, the issue with this is we're playing this clip is the safety here in the middle of the screen. You cannot just vacate without having a plan behind that. And unfortunately for San Diego State, even though this ball doesn't get defeated or completed, immediately he's coming because he's reading option. And, it's probably, again, most likely it was the play call, the defensive play call to come with the cat pressure. But this safety has to start hinting over, immediately over, because you just can't leave a receiver all by himself. I don't care if it is Air Force. And so you put yourself in a bind for a quarterback who probably doesn't get a lot of practice time throwing the ball that much. They do, I'm sure, but this is not their identity of throwing the ball. But boy, it's everybody's identity if you're going to leave a guy uncovered.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to do that. And it's not only this guy, but our eye recognition, our eye discipline is bad even here, where you're going to have a seam route go wide open and you're having a outside receiver go wide open. And now you got a DB who was, coming on a cat pressure. All of a sudden he realized he's in no man's land. And now to tell you, that's Air Force. Air Force is not going to be completing that because that's Air Force. That's not what they're known for. They're a ground attack. And, so we dodged one. But here it is now. And this is the play of the game. It's 4th and 5. They've really, been struggling as an offense to get anything established. We had the time of the possession strongly. And here's a chance for our defense to not only get off the field with Air Force getting no points, but if our offense goes back and does what they did before with using up that clock and putting more points on the board, now you've turned this ground attack team into where they got to get out of character and start throwing the ball. And that's really what you want to do to an Air Force type team. You want to get ahead of them early, give them a sense that they feel like they're running out of time. And you mentioned earlier about the defense being one of the top defenses. Well, part of that is because they're hardly on the field. They're not going to face as many possessions because their offense is going to have an 8-minute drive. And, so they're playing against 7 possessions rather than maybe 12 possessions per game. And they make a few of those stops, 4 stops. You're looking good statistically, is what you got. And so San Diego State, really the game plan was a smart game plan of just, we're going to use up clock. But if you're going to do that, you better produce points. But here's the play of the game. We run a situation and we end up going with the cover 0. That is our free safety running with the guy that went in motion. And they're going to run what we call is a Z spot. He's going to run a little spot route where he's going to sit here. You're going to get a corner route. This gentleman here is going to run a corner route. He's going to run a spot route and he's going to run a flat route. And this is where immediately you're going to see this flat route open up. And again, this is Air Force. As a coach, you can tell this team ain't used to passing the ball. In Z spot, in this concept, this is your number 1, but you read the number 1 receiver. If that DB does exactly what our DB does, you hit that flat right now. This is 4th and 5. There's nothing out here. That quarterback's got to hit his 3rd step, hit this ball, and that kid walks in the end zone. But this is Air Force. This is not their identity. He doesn't see it. It's a bad read. And unfortunately for us, we don't get the sack to take advantage of a team that's outside of their element. And he's scrambling. It's looking good for San Diego State. We're going to make this big sack, or I'm thinking he's going to throw the ball away. And instead, we lose eye discipline again over one of their players, and they get a gift. And before you know it, instead of it being offense on the football field and continue to dominate, it's first and goal for Air Force at the 1 yard line, where it just ended up being a broken play. Eye discipline wasn't there. Neither was their eye discipline. Like I mentioned before, that quarterback's got to hit that flat. He doesn't see it because it's not something that they repeat and rehearse over and over and over again. And unfortunately, in this particular case, we get beat because we're staring at a quarterback. If you allow me to rewind it real quick over here, this is the real unfortunate thing, because we got a quarterback coming and we got defenders running towards the sideline, and that quarterback is not a run threat anymore. And you cannot let people. We got a DB that literally was 2 yards outside out of bounds. He's in no man's land himself. You got to find opposite color, and you got to attach yourself to where these kind of things don't happen. And again, the lack of discipline for that particular play and the play before that, we got to make sure we correct that coming into this game against Hawaii. You cannot afford to make those kind of mistakes and giving free gifts to a team that really, this is not their element at all. Don't get bit by a shark when you're on the beach. There's no excuse for that. That should never happen. And it was out of his element.
A lot of times, one thing I'm noticing is kind of our aggressiveness getting used against us, and a lot of these big plays that have come at our expense. You got something else here for us?
Yeah. And again, eye discipline, communication. We got to make sure we're on the same page. And these were the little things that I think that plagued us all night, which was real unfortunate. There's nobody covering this guy. Now, again, anybody can see that. But we have to make sure our middle linebacker and our safeties, most times they're the captains of the team. They're the quarterbacks. The quarterback's job when he breaks the huddle is not only to read coverage, but first things first, you better make sure everybody's in the correct formation. Well, likewise with the defense, that middle linebacker, he's got to make sure his front is in the right gap situation. And the free safety, he's got to make sure that his secondary, everybody is in the right position. And when you're too focused on this, you have to recognize, all right, where is their outside receiver? And unfortunately, here's another free gift being Santa's helpers, where we were shocked that no one's covering this guy. And there's a minute left before halftime.
It wasn't even a good throw. He had to stop.
That's right.
And wait for the ball to get there.
That's right. But this is my point. It's the second quarter. It's going to be about halftime. This game is not a blowout. No. It is a 14-7 ball game. It is two plays that have given them hope. Now, they were able to run the ball on us. Well, you expect an Air Force team to be able to at least do what they do. If they're body punchers, they're going to get you in the ribs once in a while. You take that. What you don't give is you expose your head to some haymakers. You don't do that. You still got to protect their head and force them to have to execute over and over and over again. But you definitely don't give up any gimmies at all. And 14-7, you're feeling bad that you gave up, 2 touchdowns, especially that very first one. But you make a stop here. You're getting the ball in the second half. You're like, all right, we can get back to this thing. But you give up these things. You can't have that. And these are the things this week that you have to make sure that we got to be great at one thing. That is, everybody's got to be great at communicating and being on the same page. That is so vital. So try another one real quick of just, this is what you're going to see from the secondary coach. That you have a situation here where, again, eye discipline. Now, this is something we're going to get real technical with this real quick. Do you see how the lineman for Air Force, we call it a hi-hat. They're standing up immediately. Your secondary, and I was going to bring this up with the very first clip when that corner was coming on a cat pressure to stop that option play. Your secondary, including your corners, especially against a team like this, you have to be able to read offensive line play. And what I mean by that is when you see hi-hats go up, immediately you have to recognize this is a pass play. They tell you the story. And so when you see hi-hats, you must drop into coverage. So there's our outside DB here covering this guy. If he's reading this tackle like he should, if he sees him go downfield, he wants to engage this run block. But if he sees hi-hat, his eyes need to go immediately to this gentleman to go now into route recognition. What route is being run? And he wants to attach himself to that route. Either I'm staying on top of that receiver or I'm riding the hip if he's taken off to the flat. You cannot allow that. You got to read hi-hat and understand it's pass, 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 and give up that where there's no help behind you, especially when you know that there's no help. Again, eye discipline. What am I looking at? What are my keys? And for a DB, and it's hard because Air Force is a different beast and they run the ball so much, you better know what their keys are. They're rarely going to throw the ball, but when they do throw the ball, they want to take advantage of kind of a relaxed eye discipline, and we were just looking too much into the backfield, and you're trying to see what's happening in the backfield rather than you're seeing the O-line tell the story for you. And immediately, where do my eyes go once I see a hi-hat level?
Anybody who's been watching our playlist videos with you, Coach C, recognizes what you're saying. The hi-hats, low hats, it's one of the common themes that you bring up as far as on the defensive end, and it's true. It hit it right on the head.
And they got 28 points, and what we've shown is 3 blown coverages that's added to this.
Yeah.
And the 35th point, again, it's going to happen again, where we got hi-hats. And again, we got to be able to read hi-hat, where do I go? And we're not covering people. We got to understand things. We got safeties, and we got a middle linebacker in a split middle look. You'll see 2 safeties back here. He's got to understand that he's got to ride that seam on that and not give that up. It's more of a cover 4 look. But we get split again, and again, you allowed yourself to get bit by a fish while you're on the beach, that it's almost impossible for that to happen. How can you let that happen? And for Air Force, you can't let that happen. I once coached in a game where we faced a similar team. Boy, were they a juggernaut to stop running the ball. They pound you, pound you, pound you. I remember the week of preparation, I told our defensive coordinator, as I was getting ready for that game as well, I said, listen, here's his favorite pass plays. And he says, Coach, they hardly even run pass plays. I said, I know, but here's their 4 favorite pass plays, and we're going to work like crazy to stop those 4 pass plays. And once we get those things down cold and stopping them, then we can focus on just the run play. But I'm not going to let myself go to bed at night after that game if they beat us on some junky pass plays that are just some basic pass plays. And then we coached up that DB like crazy. We put the smartest DB we had on our team, and we taught him how to read that tackle. And I said, and you read the number 2 receiver. If they do this, this is your coverage. If they do this, this is your coverage. You have run support if you see the line do this. If you see hi-hat, like we spoke of, this is the zone you're going to pop into, and it depends on what route you see from the number 2 receiver. Not saying San Diego State should have did that. That's a whole different ball game. But the element and type of thinking that needs to take place is that secondary. And I know the coaches do this. I'm not saying that they're not. But that secondary has to really understand the urgency of their responsibility of eye discipline, that you can't let a team beat you like that. If they beat you because the fullback dives or, nailing it, their speed option, that's what they're good at. They're the best at it this year. They're really good at that. And that coaching staff at Air Force, for every little move you make defensively, they have an answer for it in that option game. And they're great at it. It's fun to watch all the little elements that they do. But there definitely is not an excuse for a DB leaving a receiver all by himself or watching the backfield on that. And so this week against Hawaii, you're going to have a whole different gauntlet where you're dealing with 4 receiver sets, 3x1s, 2x2s. And again, your eye discipline has to be able to have route recognition ability where you can not only recognize routes, but then develop the ability to bait that quarterback to think he's seeing something, hoping that he pulls the trigger, and then you close that window quickly. Get back to what Aztecs were doing before, and hopefully our front can take advantage of their young line and get to that quarterback and force some early throws. And hopefully our eyes are in the right place. And if your eyes are in the right place and you force some early throws, then you can grab a couple and take those the other way, and that's what we really need to get back to doing. That's the identity of San Diego State. Offense is going through their growing pains still, but the identity of San Diego State is they always look like they're playing with their hair on fire on defense. And we got to get back to that. And if we can get back to that, I think that's going to energize our offense and get us feeling good again, getting that lather up. This week is the most important game of the season, and we got to find a way to get this W for sure.
Definitely got to create some turnovers if they want to win this game on the road this Saturday against Hawaii. Both teams at 2-4 and needing their first win in conference. Like we said, the Islands are always a tough place to win at. They are a different performing type of team when they are playing on their home field. So the Aztecs have their work cut out for them. Man, Coach C, frustrating episode. We appreciate your time breaking these things down, showing us, the various areas where, hey, the eye discipline, that's the name of the game when it comes to Air Force. And well, it's kind of the name of the game in general. You got to see and be able to fly to the ball. So
absolutely. And they've done it in the past. I know they're going to get it corrected. And they know that. This is nothing new to them. They're going to be the ones, I'm sure, on that plane ride. Their position coaches are calling them over. Hey, this is what we're going to work on this week and get it down. And I'm literally looking forward to seeing these young men get that thing turned around. That's what's great for a coach, is when you see a kid make a mistake and when you see him do it right on the football field. It's a great feeling for a coach to go ahead and pat that kid on the top of his helmet. Great job. You didn't make that same mistake. You saw it right. And then it makes the player feel so good because he feels like there was growth there, and that's what gets the energy back going, that you're starting to stack good play after good play, and turnovers always ignite a team, always ignite a defense. And I can't wait. I'm really looking for their bounce back game. Hopefully they can get it done. Like you said, Hawaii's not an easy out. That is for sure, especially on their home field. But boy, when you can get a dub there in Hawaii, sure makes for a fun flight home.
Well put. Coach, hopefully we'll be talking to you again soon with an Aztec victory in the win column.
That's right. Keep fighting, Aztecs. Keep fighting. That's what we do.
All right, everybody, make sure you're watching this Saturday. We appreciate all your likes and subscriptions to our YouTube page. Make sure you are checking out sonsofmontezuma.com. We released 2 new NIL merchandise partnerships with Des Malone, number 4, and number 81, Mark Redmond. So go check out their gear, support our student athletes, and yeah. So see you guys very soon. sonsofmontezuma.com. Go Aztecs.
Go Aztec.
I'm an Aztec warrior.
Rhyme.
Just win, baby.